The following program does not have a normal intro because I was really too busy smoothing other things over to get it done. So, Ori? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I'm your host, Joe Neerman, a.k.a. Good Logic. In case you were wondering, this is precisely 10-ish. This is 10-ish. When I said 10, I said not 10, I said 10-ish. Many of you were probably wondering, what is 10-ish? This is 10-ish. It's not quite 10-10. It's a little bit more than like 5 minutes late. It's 10-ish. I had a feeling. So no, that's precisely not late, not Gino. It's neither of those. It's precisely on time. It is 10-ish o'clock, right when I started. Now, if I started now, that would be late. That would be kind of late. That is pretty clear. I don't think there's really much to dispute on this. I saw a report that I thought was really interesting. And seeing as how I'm going to tomorrow, there's a rally in Washington, D.C., which I will be attending. And it's a Jewish rally, and it's meant to show support. I'm going to show my support for the hostages who seem to be forgotten. At least here in America, we seem to have forgotten about the hostages. We don't know how many of them are still alive. We don't know how many of them are dead. But I think that it's an important thing for me to go out there and show my support. So I'm telling you now, I am going out there. And with that in mind, I wanted to share with you like a video here. This was crazy. This is from inside the tunnels. From inside the tunnels. This is an Israeli soldier in Gaza. And he's sharing actual footage of what Gaza is, the area that that Iron Sword has succeeded in capturing so far. So I thought this is not a very long video. And one other thing I wanted to mention is this. I noticed after I set this stream up that SCOTUS has actually decided to take on to itself rules of ethics. Fascinating development. The first time in Supreme Court history. It's a first in American history. And I definitely want to take a moment, probably going to take a few minutes, going through that. What those rules of ethics are, how they change, how they differ from rules of ethics that most judges have. And I think that this is a significant thing. And we'll talk about whether or not this was a necessary thing. And what does it really mean? But before we do that, before we get into any of that, let's commence this right here. That's where we'll start.
I'm here in Gaza City. We are
That's really fast.
here next to a house of a terrorist. This is one of the senior terrorists who is the head of the operational naval operations that led the raids into Israel. His house is right next to a school. His house is 200 yards from the hospital of Rantisi. Next to his house, there is a tunnel. Now I want to show you an operational tunnel.
The
tunnel is built with electricity.
It's astonishing because parts of Gaza are like a beautiful resort. And then you have this part of Gaza, which is basically like, let's make sure that people don't get the aid or the money that they're supposed to get. Let's instead invest tens of millions, hundreds of millions in building these tunnels. These tunnels are so elaborate. It's unbelievable. They're saying it's like the New York City subway system down there. So
we first saw the solar panels, then the electricity goes here, and it goes down directly to the tunnel. Now you can see the tunnel. You can see the tunnel. The tunnel is let down more than 20 meters down. The rowboat found a door that is bulletproof. It's
20 meters. That's 60 feet down, 6 stories beneath the ground. My God.
Explosives proof. So it looks like a hard evidence, a clear evidence that the hospital direction is connected. This is a cover tunnel. It's part of the same floor, and it slides down here. So it's a cover tunnel, so nobody can find it. This is Rantisi Hospital. And this is the place where I showed you the tunnel. I want you to see. This is the back side of the hospital. Hamas used this hospital. Tonight we have entered into this building. I will show you the evidence. Let's enter into the hospital. We're now entering into the area of the hospital where we had found the evidence. This operation was conducted by Israeli Special Unit, the Israeli Naval SEALs. This is still an operation that is conducting. And I'm showing you the first evidence to see.
This is crazy. This is so crazy.
We are now.
Like you couldn't even conceive. I mean, just imagine something like this in America. Like this is basically, everything is dedicated toward a war effort with a country that doesn't seek to be at war with them. Like doesn't seek to be, like hasn't been in control of the place in 17 years.
The area of the basement of the hospital. I want to show you a room where we found all the gear, the operational gear of Hamas. Hamas is using hospitals, like we showed the evidence in Shifa Hospital. In other hospitals, we are now seeing it in live in Rantisi Hospital. An operation still conducting right now. Look at what Hamas is holding inside the hospital. I want you to understand, this kind of gear is a gear for a major fight. These are explosives. These are vests with explosives. Yeah, it's a body vest for terrorists to explode on forces. Among hospitals, among patients, we have hand grenades, Kalashnikovs, and then we have the RPGs. People shooting RPGs from hospitals. This is Hamas firing RPGs for hospitals. The world has to understand who is Israel fighting against. We are now in the basement. And in this basement, we found a motorcycle. They were all used in the massacre of the 7th of October. They even have bullets in this motorcycle.
Bullet holes, he means.
So they came back from the massacre on the 7th of October into Rantisi Hospital with hostages on a motorcycle. We're still researching this. Yards from here, we find the chair, a woman, clothes, and a rope next to the legs. And look above this, look above it. It's a baby bottle. It's a baby bottle in a basement, above a World Health Organization sign.
Yeah, that's what they do with what the WHO gives them. Let's build tunnels where we can hold on to our terrorists.
The suspicion for an area where hostages were being held. We're now looking at an infrastructure. You don't need to build something improvisingly in a hospital in the basement. Unless you want to hold someone in the basement, you don't want anyone to see him. Again, we're in the same basement, and here we see diapers.
I know I didn't mention that I was going to cover this, but I saw this right before when I was when I was doing my promo, and I was like, this is crazy. I need to share this with my audience. This needs to be seen.
And we see, I don't know, maybe something. We see diapers. I want you to see this room. It's in the basement of the hospital. We can see this area is a closed area from the rest of the hospital. We can see the ventilation air that was done improvisely to this area, and we can see infrastructures that was built in here, toilets, shower, a small kitchen, will provide the terrorists their needs. Also conduct a hideout where terrorists take hostages and hide out. And I will show you now the evidence. You're now entering into the room where we suspect the hostages were being held. I want you to look at this room. People are putting curtains with nothing above, just wall. No reason to put here a curtain unless you want to film hostages and deliver movies. And that looks a lot like the
That looks a lot like the backdrop. I can't swear that it's the same one, but they said that there was that video of that girl, that blonde girl. I was talking. I shared her mother's statement when when she saw a video of her daughter giving some sort of message, and that looks very similar to the backdrop that they had.
I will show you more evidence. In this room, there is a list. This list, in Arabic, this list says we are in an operation. The operation against Israel started in the 7th of October. This is a Guardian list.
So if you see there, it's got different dates, which that's how they work it backwards, because both Hebrew and Arabic go backwards. So that's why they have 10-7, 10-8, 10-9, 10-10, 10-11, 10-12, and 13. But I guess they're counting off the days all the way to the end of October and into November. That's what I'm guessing.
Where every terrorist writes his name, and every terrorist has his own shift, guarding the people that were here.
Unbelievable. So yeah, prayers for the hostages. Prayers for the hostages. Terrible. Terrible. Yeah. All right. Okay. So I wanted to share that. I also wanted to share with you this. Like, this is what Gaza could be, should be, if they had more interest in the civilians than. And I'm going to close this, just a minute-long video. If they had a greater, this was shared by Dave Rubin, if they had a greater interest in taking care of their civilians than in killing their neighbors. This is what Gaza was before Hamas. This is Gaza before Hamas. Unbelievable. This is what they could be. This is what they could be. In their open air prison. Now, to be fair, this is likely like, video of like what the wealthy live like. But still, I mean, they make it sound as if like everyone there has to live like in a hut and like scrounge for food and can't get basic necessities. I mean, come on. Come on. I mean, come on. Anyway. So I saw those two videos and I was like, yeah, that's Gaza like we haven't seen. Neither of those videos are Gaza like we've seen them. All we see is basically war-torn, like destroyed, damaged. Yeah. So Gino-ish. It's with a J, Chugi. That's the whole point. Time equals interest. Some are better at building it. That's true. That's true. I'm not very good at building interest. Please stream live rally for own protection. Evidence to refute MSM. I plan on streaming the rally. I expect to get there late. Taking a train in. I'm expecting to get there late. But I expect that I will be streaming the rally. Likely I'll be streaming it to locals, which is at goodlogic.locals.com. So I plan on streaming the rally tomorrow. Almost certainly I'll be streaming it to locals, which is goodlogic.locals.com. locals.com. If you cannot afford the $5 a month, let me know and I will hook you up for free. For free! It costs nothing if you cannot afford it. You simply have to say, Joe, I can't afford it. Can you hook me up? And I'll say, sure. Is Joe going to ask you for your tax returns? No. Is he going to ask you how many kids are living in your house? How many dependents do you have? No. Is he going to ask you any questions like, what do you do for a living? What efforts have you made to get a higher paying job? No. All he's going to say is, here's the code. Make sure you sign up monthly. You can keep reusing it. Boom. And it works better from a browser. It's for anybody who cannot afford it, but it probably is going to go to locals. It's probably going to end up being subscriber only at a certain point. That's goodlogic.locals.com. I do plan on streaming it. That's actually a major reason why I'm taking a train, is so that I actually have juice in my phone, where I should be able to keep my phone going while I'm on the train and charging. So, not disputing, but look at the dust on the ground, boot prints and dust around the chair legs where the rope was found. That doesn't jive in court. Do I have to start going back to it? I mean, I don't think it's the first time he walked in here. It's like, oh my gosh, here's a chair. I think they saw the stuff there. We're looking around and decided we need to film this. So, yeah, it doesn't look like, I don't think they just found it there at that moment. We'll be praying that you don't get arrested tomorrow. We'll also be betting on you getting arrested. You're a great wrestler. I don't know what I was thinking, Mr. Chinoish. I don't know either. I don't know. You're the one who put it with a G. You're the one who did that. I didn't do that. All right, where was I? Let me make sure I didn't miss anything over here. Did I get you? All right, I got all my folks here. And let me just double check over here. All right, I'm good on locals. Yeah, you see? I'm checking you got your locals people out. Take 2 fully charged phones. I'm planning on taking also a phone charger. I'm terrified about running out of power. I have like this crazy thing about running out of power with my phone. Like, I'm always terrified of that. So I was trying to get myself a phone charger, and it was and all my cars basically vanished from my house today, so I wasn't able to even get out. It was just nothing worked. Nothing worked. Anyhow, okay. So a couple of quick stories I want to get to here very quickly. Topics that I think are important for you to know about. In case, because maybe it's just very, very quickly. So number one is this. MAGA Shaman wants to run for Congress. Yeah, that's right. This guy, Jacob Chansley, running for Congress. All right. Just thought you should know that. You should be aware. Where is he running for Congress? How can I move there? That's what you're probably asking. You're probably asking that very question. I know I was. Although, you mean there's dust where the feet would be tied? Yeah, well, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. I wasn't doing a forensic test. So, yeah, he's running in Arizona. I think they're 8 districts. One of the most recognizable defendants from this, according to Blaze Media, one of the most recognizable defendants from the January 6th melee has expressed an interest in running for Congress. Jacob Chansley, formerly known as the QAnon Shaman, is the man who infamously strutted through the Capitol on January 6, 2021, wearing patriotic face paint and bull horns but no shirt. He eventually pled guilty to civil disorder and violent entry into the Capitol and served a grueling 27 months behind bars, almost 11 of which were in solitary confinement. Chansley was given early release back in March, just a few weeks after Tucker Carlson aired surveillance footage from that day on his erstwhile Fox News program. That footage seemed to exonerate Chansley. I think he was released I think he was released like a day or two later, by which time I'm pretty sure Jacob Tucker had been fired. Chansley, an Arizona native, spent the next several months at a halfway house in Phoenix. Whether he remains at the facility at this time is unclear. What is clear is that Chansley wants to make a grand return to Congress, this time as an elected representative, using the name Jacob Angeli Chansley. Chansley filed a statement of interest on Thursday to run as a libertarian for the 8th Congressional District seat in Arizona. Oh, libertarian. All right, we don't have to read any further. Sorry, Jacob. I'm just being real with you. You're running as a libertarian. There's no reason to read any further. Yeah. So there you go. All right. So that covers that story. I just wanted you to be aware of that. That was important that you be aware. That you should be aware of that. All right. Next up, can we talk about Megan Rapinoe? Can I talk about Megan Rapinoe? Megan Rapinoe? My goodness, this woman. That woman. Where are you? So Megan Rapinoe, you might have heard of her. She's a soccer player who became infamous or famous or whatever, I guess in part for her success on the soccer field, along with many of the members of the women's soccer team, and then for basically fighting against the patriarchy in order to get equal pay in a lawsuit that was doomed from the start when it became apparent that the women had an option to choose the men's deal and then said, no, we don't want that. And then during the lawsuit, while the lawsuit was ongoing, was given that exact same option yet again and said, no, we don't want that. But we want equal to what the men are getting, which is kind of funny. It's kind of funny. So the only one who actually made any money off of that lawsuit were the lawyers. And in the group lawyers, I certainly include Nate the lawyer, who has a series of videos about the women's soccer. Every time he says women's soccer, he picks up another 30,000 subs. And trust me, if that worked for me, I would do the same thing. So I'm saying that with the greatest admiration, and you should check out Nate the lawyer's work on that topic as well as any other topic. I know a lot of you, sometimes have issue with the fact that he's not, that his positions may not always agree with yours, but I do think that he's 100% sincere in everything he expresses. I might not always agree with him, but I think he's sincere. Getting back to Megan Rapinoe here. So we're going to go with we'll go with some right-leaning and we'll go with some left-leaning. Go with both. I didn't take any disrespect. You're simply looking for facts. I get that. That was cool. I watched that video once before, 2 minutes before I started the show, and then again. Hi, welcome home. I haven't seen Lady Logic all day. I know that my youngest was itching to find you before.
I'm crying.
She was crying?
Yeah.
Oh.
Just standing by the window.
Oh, man. I tried calling you because I even started the show late and had everyone telling me I was late in Gino. I did. It's true. All right. So this is a right-leaning. Let me give you this is an interesting story, this thing. It's interesting to me how everyone reacted to this. You did not. Cena Rose, member for 4 months. You did not think she was trans. Come on. There's no Adam's apple there. You didn't think that. All right. We'll give you the right side first. My take on this story might be a little bit different than you anticipate. Just warning you. Megan Rapinoe claims her injury proves there is no God in a bizarre rant. This is according to Express CEO, UK Sport Football, whatever. I don't even know. Some UK paper. Which I figured if I'm going to cover US women's soccer, I definitely want to see what the UK's perspective is on it. Megan Rapinoe or whatever her name is, Oh, I'm totally attending it alone. Me and 100,000 other folks. If you're asking me if I'm planning on going with anyone that I know, no, I'm not. So in that sense, I am going alone. But I am positive I will meet countless people that I know. Positive. Like everyone I know is going. Like everyone. And I haven't actually, I booked my ticket. I haven't reserved it yet because I think there's like a 10% chance that sometime between now and 8 a.m., someone I know might see this and say, hey, Joe, let's go together. And I'll be like, cool. And go with them. So, yeah. Anyhow, where was I? Okay. But no, Lady Ludwig's not coming with me. Why are people saying don't go? I'm going to, where's he going? I'm going to the rally in Washington. Can we stop? I'm trying to talk about Megan Rapinoe. Where is he? I'm going to the rally in Washington, D.C. tomorrow. And a lot of people are expressing concern. Trust me. Trust me. This is not the most dangerous thing I've ever done. Not the stupidest thing I've ever done. Not the first time I've gone to a rally in Washington before. So, yeah, but that is where I'm going. I will try to be safe. Why would I bring a towel? Don't forget to bring a towel. All right. Can I get back to work here? Megan Rapinoe has claimed that her Achilles injury just 3 minutes. 3 minutes into the NWSL final against Gotham FC is proof that God doesn't exist. Yes. The US WNT football icon made the comment in a controversial post-match interview following the team's 2-1 defeat in what was her last competitive game. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Hey, hey, hey. It's proof. Look, it's not. Let me tell you something. It's not the suffering of children. It's not kids born with AIDS. It's not blind people getting cancer. No, that is not what's proof. None of that is proof. It's it's a spoiled, overpaid female athlete who's whining about being underpaid, getting injured in her last game and being unable to complete her last game. That's what the proof is. There you go. Stupid blind kids thinking that you have some sort of proof. No. Megan's got it down. Years from now, you can bet anything that philosophers will come forward and say, look, we've analyzed this whole God question. We've been trying to figure it out for decades, millennia. Is there a God? Is there not a God? We were like 50-50. We couldn't tell. But then we were watching a soccer match. And in that soccer match, one of the female participants got injured 3 minutes into the game. And that's when it became crystal clear to us. What were we even thinking? Oh my God, it was so obvious. The most obvious proof in the world. Clearly, that's a sign. Unbelievable. How self-absorbed can someone possibly be? Unbelievable. The US WNTA Football America comments a controversial post-match interview. Rapinoe was named in the starting lineup for the highly anticipated match. The 38-year-old was hoping to make a final impact on the field. Oh, she made an impact on the field. On that grass that she collapsed onto. That's where she made her impact. Oh my God. A lot of people are saying that this is proof of God. What are you talking about? What does that even mean? This is proof that there's a God. Lord. The 30-year-old, hoping to make fun of the final before retirement, instead fell to the ground just 3 minutes in. She had to be substituted for Bethan Balser and was met with a rapturous applause. You're so wonderful. You're so wonderful. From fans inside
from both fans inside San Diego Snapdragon Stadium. Both of them were very excited and wishing her well in their rapturous applause. In San Diego Snapdragon Stadium, Rapinoe was embraced by fellow USWNT icon Ali Krieger, also playing the final game of her career. Well, look, it's not that hard to get that rapturous when there's 4 women who are standing there in the stadium saying, "We love you. We love you." All 4 of them were just very, very excited. Very excited to celebrate her moment there. Speaking shortly after the defeat, Rapinoe claimed their injury proves that there is no God before breaking out into hysterics alongside teammate Rose Lavelle. There was a God, there's proof this. This is proof there isn't. All right. Now, so it's very easy to laugh at her. Let's face it. It's very, very easy to laugh at her. You know what this is like? It's very much. I only just saw this now. Give me a second. Many of you are probably too younger to remember this story, but there was a famous story that happened in the 90s. One of the biggest stories of the 90s. It's Nancy Kerrigan. And she was attacked.
Why? I don't know, some hard black stick. Something really, really hard.
I remember this video differently. I haven't seen it in 25 years.
Help me.
I remember the. I remember that differently. Oh, all right. Well, that ruined that moment for me. Yeah, the whole why. I thought it was why me, and I'm totally wrong on that. I thought she was only like why me, which she. In case you were too young to appreciate that story, Nancy Kerrigan was an Olympic skater who had a U.S. rival by the name of Tanya Harding, who had a boyfriend named Jeff Gillooly, who was very upset about the fact that Nancy was far more talented than his girlfriend, and decided to take a club to Nancy Kerrigan's knee. And there's a famous, I thought that she was screaming, why? I remembered her screaming, why me, in a way that people really were kind of mocking for a while, because it was like, I don't know. She seems way more sympathetic when I'm watching her now. So I'm gonna stop with that. I'm gonna stop with that whole angle. I'm just pulling back from that angle. Let's just go back in time 5 minutes, okay? Just that was just so not relevant to this at all. All right. Anyhow, so a lot of people very, very mad at. Maybe it was the Mandela effect. Could be. Very mad at Megan Rapinoe. This is the actual video, though. We should watch the actual video.
And this is a long one, although I'm gonna get the Aaron Rodgers treatment, whatever that is. So I'm gonna be calling.
You're not nearly as influential as Aaron Rodgers. Like seriously, seriously, you're not even even if all of Aaron Rodgers, even if the only people who heard of Aaron Rodgers were people who live in Green Bay, you're not as significant as Aaron Rodgers. I'm totally Aaron Rodgers. No, you're not. You're a nobody.
Him or whoever did his surgery because we need to speed this up. But yeah, I thought about it a little bit. I mean, you know, I'm not a religious person or anything. And if there wasn't God, like this is proof that there isn't. This is up. So yeah, it's just up because like 6 minutes in, eat my Achilles. I mean, what the
So that's the actual quote of her saying it. Now, I'm just going to point this out. I'm just. You might get upset at me for this. I'm going to get people upset at me for this. It's probably like only like the 10th most stupidest thing she's ever said. I mean, yeah, I would never, ever, ever even make a joke like that. It's like a big no-no. It's a big no-no. Like you don't joke about that. Never. Like but it's like, so I wouldn't even say it jokingly, but I recognize the fact that she's coming from a place where she basically is, yeah, you know, she's pretty much like the dumb, you know, she's dumber than most people who have had full frontal lobotomies. So, I mean, she said so many stupid things that for her to basically start moping about this being proof that there not be a God, where she is clearly saying it in a joking way, even though this is something I would never joke about. Many of you would likely never joke about. But the fact is, a lot of people are freaking out about this. Like, I can't believe she says this is proof there's no God. I don't think that you can watch that video. Here's another angle of it. I don't think you can watch this video and say she's sincere. Like, that's what she's sincerely saying.
Yeah, I thought about it a little bit. I mean, you know, I'm not a religious person or anything. And if there was a God, like, this is proof that there isn't. It's fucked up. So, yeah, it's just fucked up. Because
see, that's it, when she's like trying to contain her laughter as she's saying it. Do I think this excuses her and like, you know, do I think this makes what she's saying okay? No, I think she's a self-absorbed, whiny little baby who looks at herself as if she's some sort of mega star and very, very important in the universe. And it's women's soccer. I mean, it's women's soccer. If it was women's cricket, would that still also be something that it's like it's women's soccer? I mean, women's soccer. It's women soccer in America. Take out women. It's soccer in America. Now let's add in women's soccer in America. I'm sorry. No. Nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about you nearly as much as you think they do. My God. But at the same time, she's getting a lot of hate. And I'm like, why is everyone giving her hate? I don't know why anyone even noticed that she still plays soccer anymore. Like, I don't understand anything about this. Am I crazy for saying, like, nobody? There's so many people who say things that are way more stupid. When she was, if she had said it seriously, then that would be something that would be funnier to me. It lost a lot of its humor to me because it's like, oh, she's trying to make a joke and she's just, you know, she's lame. So that's the extent of her humor. Is like, haha, this is proof there's no God. I mean, come on, this is messed up. Haha. I mean, it's not even a joke. That's just like, I don't even know what the hell that is. But I don't think that this is like a national calamity, that it's like, this is like a big deal. And it seems like on social media, it is a big deal. And this is true too. The godly don't care what the why is that not working? The godly don't care what godless think about God. I missed a bunch of chats here. Grifty says, bring a towel because the answer is 42. Is this Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy thing? What? Last competitive game, 1/3 of those words is correct. O's be mad. Very mad. Hey, Joe, what happened with the Colorado case? Stay safe tomorrow. I'll bring a power bank instead of a charger. Don't rely on finding an outlet. I'm supposed to get one on the train. I'm supposed to find one in the train. I'm supposed to... Supposed to be getting that. Supposed to be getting on the train. But yeah. We don't have a decision on the Colorado case yet. That's what we have. We're waiting. We're waiting for a decision on the Colorado case. I haven't seen anything on it. I was looking. But yeah. Am I crazy for saying that this is like not that big a deal? Am I wrong for saying that? Or should we all be like killing her? Like, how dare she? How dare she? How dare you? I think it's big chatter, mostly because she can't keep herself off the news saying other stupid things. It's also, I think that she loves the spotlight. And I think she's recognizing that that's dimming. And it's dimming fast. It's dimming fast. Compare Mar-a-Lago to Graceland in net worth. Nobody living in Graceland. Used to be someone living there. Nobody living in Graceland. I assume that Graceland is probably worth a lot more money. A lot more money. I would assume that Michael Jackson's place, what's it called? Wonderland or whatever? I would assume that's probably worth more than Trump's place. I would assume. I don't know. But I would tend to assume that they're worth more. Some folks might have some islands, which might be worth more. I'm not sure how that's relevant to, like, I'm not sure why that's coming up now, but yeah. Does that mean it's not arguably one of the top 10 most valuable private residences in the country? I think it's probably pretty valuable. Neverland, that was what it was. Is it? It's falling apart? Is it? And yeah, I agree with this totally. That's a good time for us to branch over to there. So the defense began its case in chief today in New York. No, I wasn't able to get there. How do I get a code from Locals from you? Email. Best way to do it is you can hit me up on Locals or on Twitter at @thefollowingpro. I'm so glad you brought this up. I'm so glad you brought this up because I promised to do something when I come back here, and I did not do it, and I'm going to do it now. I'm going to remedy this. I'm so glad you brought this up because I actually told someone to not. So, what's the Neverland Ranch? Okay. I promised someone I was going to do something which I was going to do tonight when I totally forgot to do it. So I'm doing it now. There's a guy who's been a follower on this show for a long time. Following the show for a long time. Who started up a Give, Send, Go. And he's been following me for ages. He asked me for permission to promote. He DM'd me, asked me permission to promote a Give, Send, Go. And I said, sure. You can do that. This guy's been following my show since like day one. He goes by the name Caldwell.
and he needs shoulder surgery. This is the guy here. Caldwell shoulder surgery. I'm going to put the link in the description here. What he's campaign created by Jonathan Dunlap. Funds and campaign will be received by Jonathan Dunlap. So I guess it's not Caldwell. I'm not sure. Got rear-ended, tore my rotator cuff in 2 places, asking for enough to survive until I can start working again. I hate asking, but I need to. This will go towards survival and nothing other than essential and car payment until I can drive again. So, yeah. That's, I'm going to, if you're able, if you find it in your heart, you know, Christmas season coming up or something, Hanukkah, whatever. This is a guy who I don't know. Look, all I know about his request here is what you see in this link. I have no reason to, you know, question anything he wrote here. I assume I'd be shocked if it's not true, but I don't know that it's true. So I'm simply saying this is a guy who's been a follower of the show for a long time, very long time, and he's looking for and he came to me asking me if I would help throw this out there to my audience. So what I'm even going to do is I'm going to put a link to this in my description. And it's Caldwell Dunlaps. It's a Give, Send, Go. Let me put it here. I'm going to put my locals first. No, not locals. I'm putting it in Rumble. And I'm also going to put it in my description on YouTube. And I'll put it in my chat. So this way you can my heck silence. Control V. There you go. I already told him that I'm going to take care of him for free. But thank you, Drop Barracuda. I told him I didn't even ask. I was like, hey, and if you want, here's the thing. But you're very kind. Thank you. I didn't pull it up yet, but I was referring to this. So there you go. No one's mandated to do anything, but I didn't want to call attention to it because I think this guy's been following me since like I had like 100 subs, like a very long time. So I just thought, you know what? If he's in need and I can help him out in any way, shape, or form, I think it's appropriate. Okay. So someone just was talking about the New York trial. That was one of the last super chats that I got. So I wanted to just jump right over to that. So Donald Trump Jr. was in court today as the defense began its case in chief. He had been called to the stand by the petitioners. And after he was called to the stand, they did not do any cross-examination, figuring they would save that for when they brought him up today. And he was the opening guy out. I want to give you a little taste of his what he thought about his testimony.
Go. Listen, I sort of a boring cross-exam. I thought they were going to go somewhere, but I think they understand that they have nothing as it relates to a case other than, I guess, an overzealous attorney general who would destroy all of New York business by going after transactions where there are no victims, I guess, other than herself. But you guys have got to think about the precedent that this case sets. If an attorney general can years later, after all parties of transactions are paid back in full, with interest, making hundreds of millions of dollars, where they have no complaint, where they said they wouldn't have done anything differently, where every witness, as it relates to my brother and I, every witness that the Attorney General has called have said that my brother and I were not involved in the statement of financial condition. That even includes their star witness, the perjurer in chief, Michael Cohen, who's...
Now, I want to be clear here. While he and his brother were initially named they were removed. As I'm not sure. I think that might have. I'm not sure if that was a court decision or it was just a decision by Letitia James. But he's no longer a defendant in this case, I believe.
He's perjured himself probably more times than any human being I can think of. Even he said, perhaps the one time he was actually telling the truth in all of this, that my brother and I had nothing to do with it, but it doesn't matter because it's a witch hunt. It always has been. But the precedent that it sets for New York business, if you don't perhaps donate to Letitia James' re-election campaign, I too will go after your $1 billion transactions. It's ripe for extortion and corruption, but that's what you get from the Democrat Party in New York these days.
Now he's couching it that way. I want to just couch. I think he's overstating it, and overstating it in a way that is, you can see that he's overstating it, I think actually weakens the point. Meaning, he's trying to make it like this is a threat to you too. That anyone who fails to support Letitia James, she can go after, which is technically true. Nobody believes that though. And there's no reason to think that that's actually true rather than just like that she understands that there's public sentiment that's against Donald Trump and that it would be politically popular for her to go after Donald Trump in New York. So when he's saying this is setting that sort of precedent that if you don't support her, that you can be next on her hit list for any deal that you've ever done. I think he's overstating it, and in overstating it, he's weakening his own point. A better point is that Donald Trump is the guy they don't like today. And it's not about necessarily who Letitia James personally doesn't like. She's not the individual who's the threat, but she's represented. She's a manifestation of that threat because there are many Letitia James out there. He could have spun this in a far more galvanizing type of way, even for support for his father's own candidacy, and basically saying, look, they're going after my father because he succeeded. But anyone who succeeds that's not giving the narrative they want would be sitting here as defendant in this court right now. And if not in this court, then in a different court, if they came from a different state. That's what's happening here. The reason, and my father's not going to be there forever, but it's going to be the next guy who comes up and speaks up against the government. The next person, the next woman who comes up and speaks up against the establishment. That's the next person who's going to be on their hit list. And everyone needs to realize what's happening here. It's a far more galvanizing type of message and less about me, and trying to say you could be me also if you don't support it. And Letitia James is uniquely terrible. No. It's a broader message, and that it's manifested in Letitia James going after Donald Trump. But if it wasn't Donald Trump who was successful, it would have been somebody else. It would have been whoever would have succeeded. If Ted Cruz had won the election, it'd be Ted Cruz facing off against some prosecutor in Texas. That's what's happening here. So, that's what he really, that's I think a more effective way of delivering the same message and galvanizing support in a better way. I just love seeing
days, it seems. So it's a scary precedent.
How you doing, brother?
I don't know how anyone could do business in this city with that. Anyone you speak to who's actually in banking, who's actually in real estate, understands that. But again, they don't want to put themselves in the crosshairs, so perhaps they'll be silent. So it's a disgrace that this is happening right now, but I think we'll make our points, we'll make our case, and we'll go on from there. So you guys have a great day. Thank you. No, listen, I got to find out about my aunt passing away, literally. Not really what I want to talk about, but I got to, literally about, as I pulled up here this morning, I found out, my aunt passed away. Not a great swing thought, in the back of your head as you're going to deal with this sort of insanity. I'm very close with her grandson. We hang out all the time, and so it's obviously a rough day for that. But, unfortunately, it is what it is. This is what it's become, right? Every day there's going to be another nonsense, another lawsuit. They're going to keep trying. Reality, facts. that doesn't matter because that's where we've gotten in a politicized country. So it's a shame, and we'll deal with that accordingly. I think I'm done. Actually, I don't. They had the opportunity to cross-examine me, a rather mean-spirited attempt to try to do something, but they didn't get into any details in the cross because they've been able to play this out in the press. Donald Trump Jr. doesn't know anything about the finances of the company, according to. No, they asked me specifically about the statement of financial condition, one document of billions, and like I said, every witness that they have said has, under oath, said that Eric, myself, we had nothing to do with the document. No, nothing. Even Cohen, like I said. But that is the basis.
Well, there you go.
We are apparently already guilty of fraud, having never even heard from us at that point before ever hearing from these witnesses. So that's why, it's a little bit ridiculous, right? You can't even make your case before, oh, wait, this is it. Well, the document that you're relying on this, I'm not supposed to rely on a big five accounting firm, like one of the biggest accounting firms in the world. I can pay them millions of dollars. I rely on them to do accounting, but I'm supposed to know more than them. By this logic, insurance companies are going to start suing patients for listening to their doctors, right? Do you understand? Like, am I supposed to know more? Oh, Don Jr. doesn't know anything about it. I'm not.
The accountants are the experts. And it seems as if the culpability always ends up lying with the client rather than with the accountant. Not always, frequently. It's an appeal to small town. We know our DA. Okay. Maybe. So you're saying that his framing is the right framing? Is it better framing than what I was presenting? It's an interesting thought. It's a really interesting thought.
I'm not an accountant. I'm a business guy. I went through each and every one of our deals. Had they asked me those questions, I could have very easily answered them. But I can't answer questions about a document that literally everyone acknowledges I had nothing to do with. I rely on the accountants to do that. It was, perhaps there's a New York personality there, but no, I think he understood. I can't help myself even in a very serious situation. If you take yourself too seriously, the world sort of sucks. You got to have a little bit of fun with it. So I did. We had some, quips in the courtroom. The first time I was here, sort of gave me a fist bump on the way out. I guess I had a rather snappy response to something that was, I can't even remember what it was right now. And he said, that was really funny. And sort of, so,
such a weird situation. It's such a weird situation.
I don't even know how far the gag order applies. So, I don't need to do that and put myself, I'm in enough crosshairs, guys. But again, this was about the Attorney General going after and prosecuting their political enemies. And if you don't believe that, just listen to what she said before she was ever.
That's a better way to frame it.
We're going to go after Trump. We're going to go. We're in New York. It's bullshit. Okay, is what it is. But that doesn't matter because it's also New York because it is so one-sided. And that's the reality of the world in which we live today. So we got to play accordingly.
You think so?
But I imagine, as you'll hear from our other experts and witnesses and the banks and everyone,
I don't know about that.
They'll totally back up our side of the story. I just don't know that any of that matters because, unfortunately, it doesn't feel like, we're playing by the rules. We're playing by.
I'm going to make this a poll.
A one-sided system of justice. So, thanks, guys.
I'm going to make this a poll because I'm very curious about. I'm very curious whether people agree with V Radio about this. I think that's a really interesting question. Let's make that a poll. Let's put it up here. Start a poll. Who is it? Speaker. Who's a better speaker, the Don or Don Jr.? Very simple. Very simple poll for you. Everybody likes polls. Everybody likes polls. Everybody. I'm going to check out. I'm going to check it into whatchamacallit. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm checking out here my my Rumble.
going to say in Rumble, if you think that Donald Trump is the better speaker, hit 1. If you think Don Jr. is the better speaker, hit 2. And Doug saying, thank you, Joe. Be safe. Dropping a 50. Drop it. Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. So I'm checking out Rumble now. So far I'm seeing ones. Well, there's 2. Janelle's hitting me with the 2. Interesting. I think it's mostly ones. Yeah. It's mostly ones here in the chat. And hey, my mod says the Don is better. So there you go. What counts after that, right? What possibly counts after that? Colorado case, you had other commitments that Friday afternoon, so you weren't watching for scheduling of closing arguments. Wednesday, November 15th from 3 to 5 p.m. Oh, thank you. 2:30 was mentioned too. Double check with your methods. Okay. Well, I guess I know I'm doing Wednesday. So tomorrow I'm at a rally, and then Wednesday I'm covering a Colorado trial. All right. I got a busy week. Sounds like fun. All right. I want to spend a little time here before I get into at least Stefanik. I want to talk about this this development that I noticed right before, during my half hour before show. So, Supreme Court has been in existence under the Constitution since 1789, which means we're at 244 years. 244 years with the Supreme Court. And today, they decided to embrace, for the first time in their history, their own rules of ethics. Till now, they were going by nothing. Now, you may be aware of the fact that of late, the left has basically been freaking out about Clarence Thomas. This is not because they care really about his ethics. They're just really frustrated with the fact that he's so wicked smart. He's wicked smart, and he is lethal in his judicial opinions and likely his influence on the court. So they really want to see him removed. Most of them are very bothered by Ginny Thomas, his wife, having such strong political affiliations with MAGA. And they have been digging around to see any time anyone has ever bought him anything or been nice to or dropped any gifts on him as a basis to try and see that Clarence Thomas become impeached. That's one way of looking at it. Another is they just hate black people. Who's to know for sure? There's no way. There's really no way to know for sure. There isn't. Tomato. It's all the same thing. But according to NBC News here, Supreme Court adopts a code of conduct amid ethics scrutiny. The Supreme Court on Monday announced it has formally adopted what it called a new code of conduct following allegations of ethics lapses. Court issued a 14-page document that included 5 canons of conduct on issues such as when justices should recuse themselves and what kind of outside activities they can engage in. The underside justices are promulgating this code of conduct to set out succinctly and gather in one place the ethics rules and principles that guide the conduct of the members of the court. The justice said in an attached statement. All 9 justices signed the statement. Most of the rules outlined in the code are not themselves new. Statement said, but the lack of public code has led in recent years to the misunderstanding that the justices of this court, unlike all other jurists in this country, regard themselves as unrestricted by any ethics rules. The code, based on rules followed by lower court judges, appears to build on a statement the justices released in April saying they reaffirm and restate their commitment to ethics principles, an announcement that failed to quell the criticism. Among other things, the code requires justices to uphold the integrity and independence of the judiciary and avoid impropriety and the appearance of impropriety in all activities. The court has been under pressure to act ever since a series of reports raised questions about whether justices were following the rules. Democrats of the Senate Judiciary Committee have proposed legislation that would impose a new ethics code on the court, with lawmakers saying they are being forced to act because of the justices' failure to do so. So
there's speculation that they're doing this in order to just sort of cut the legs out from that whole movement. Senator Dick Durbin chairs the committee, said the Supreme Court's actions were important steps, but they fall short of what we could and should expect, including by leaving too many decisions up to individual justices. For now, I will note that the court's adoption of this code marks a step in the right direction, he added, meaning I have to basically go back to the people who control me and ask them what they think I should say about this. This is not funny. I don't expect it to be that many Jews, by the way, on the trains, but yeah, that's kind of dark. It's kind of dark. I guess that's why you're called Dread Clown, right? That would explain it. It's pretty dark. I think Junior can get the point across better, but the Don is more funny and more engaging. That's probably a succinct way of putting it. So I want to take a look at these rules. What do you call the honor system of individual justice handling ethics issues has not worked, White House added. Gabe Roth, the executive director of Ethics Watchdog, Fix the Court, had similar complaints. If the nine are going to release an ethics code with no enforcement mechanism and remain the only police of the nine, then how can the public trust they're going to do anything more than simply cover for one another? Ethics be damned, he said in a statement. Although Supreme Court justices follow some of the same rules that are imposed on lower court justices, such as requirement they file annual financial disclosure reports, they are not bound by the code of conduct that applies to other judges. Recent scrutiny was prompted by an April article. Let's check out their code array. All right, we got to it. Okay, so let's check out the code. This is it. The Supreme Court of the United States statement of the court regarding the code of conduct. Here we go. The undersigned justices are promulgating this code of conduct to set out succinctly and gather in one place the ethics rules and principles that guide the conduct of the members of the courts. For the most part, these rules and principles are not new. We've always been following this. I don't know what you're talking about. Court has long had the equivalent of common law ethics rules, that is, the body of rules derived from a variety of sources, including statutory provisions to the code that applies to other members of the federal judiciary, ethics advisory opinions issued by the Judicial Conference Committee on Codes of Conduct and Historic Practice. All right. The absence of a code, however, has led in recent years or months to the misunderstanding that justices of the court, unlike other jurors in this country, regard themselves as unrestricted by any ethics rules. You think that we're not acting with any sort of guideline? We had an unwritten code all along. Hello, we just didn't say it out loud. It was a double secret code. To dispel that misunderstanding, we're issuing this code, which largely represents a codification of principles that we have long regarded as governing our conduct. Now, and then they put forward the list of their canons. Canons are basically like different sections. And canon 1, a justice should uphold the integrity and independence of the judiciary. We're not going to go through the canons in great detail. Instead, I'm going to focus. I want to hyper focus on the distinctions between the guidelines that govern regular judges versus the Supreme Court, because they actually lay out. They say, look, you'll see. They're going to say they lay out. Most of this is pretty much the same as all other judges. There are a few distinctions which accommodate for the fact that we're the freaking Supreme Court. So that's the part I want to focus on. But the first canon is Justice Supreme Court of the United States should maintain and observe high standards of conduct in order to preserve the integrity and independence of the federal judiciary. That doesn't really mean anything. I mean, it means whatever you want it to mean. That's basically, it means whatever we want, whatever the individual justice wants it to mean. Let's face it, that's what it means. 2 is the justice should avoid impropriety and the appearance of impropriety in all activities. They focus here on outside influence because that's part of what the complaint about Thomas is. A justice should not allow family, social, political, financial, or other relationships to influence official conduct or judgment. That's good. It shouldn't. The question is, you're going to be scrutinized for whether or not you've complied with this.
A justice should neither knowingly lend the prestige of the judicial office to advance the private interests of the justice or others, nor knowingly convey or permit others to convey the impression that they are in a special position to influence the justice. A justice should not testify voluntarily as a character witness. Okay. That's an interesting thing. Canon 3. A justice should perform the duties of office fairly, impartially, and diligently, not to be swayed by partisan interests, public clamor, or fear of criticism. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Come on. Come on. Come on. How is Sotomayor supposed to come to a decision if she can't be swayed? Come on. Oof. Okay. That's a... Justice should participate in matters assigned unless disqualified, maintain order and decorum in judicial proceedings. Justice should be patient, dignified, respectful, and courteous to all individuals with whom the justice deals in an official capacity. So if you're driving on the road, they can flip someone the bird if they cut them off. But when they're in official capacity, that's a no-no. Justice should be patient. Justice should not engage in behavior that is harassing. Mm-hmm. Abusive, prejudice, or bias. Justice should not retaliate against those who report misconduct. Not require similar conduct by those subject to the justice's control. Justice should take appropriate action upon receipt of reliable information indicating the likelihood of misconduct by a court employee. All right, so let's move forward here. What is disqualification? Justice is presumed impartial and has an obligation to sit unless disqualified. Justice should disqualify himself or herself from a proceeding in which the justice's impartiality might reasonably be questioned. That is, where an unbiased and reasonable person who is aware of all relevant circumstances would doubt that the justice could fairly discharge his or her duties. Such instances include, but are not limited to, those in which the justice has a personal bias, prejudice, concerning a party, personal knowledge of disputed evidentiary facts. At a prior stage proceeding, the justice represented a party or a lawyer with whom the justice previously practiced law served during such association as a lawyer for a party. The justice knows that the justice individually as a fiduciary, the justice's spouse or minor child residing in the justice's household has a financial interest in the subject matter in controversy. So if your wife has invested in a company and that company is called up there as a party to the case, you're not supposed to be sitting on the case. The justice or justice spouse or person related to either within the third degree of relationship to the spouse is known by the justice to be a party to the proceeding or an officer, director, or trustee of a party, acting as a lawyer in the proceeding, having interest that can be substantially affected. The justice has served in government employment, and okay, whatever. Justice spouse or person related to the justice spouse is known by the justice to have served as lead counsel for a party below. All right. Let's go on to the next canon. Let's move forward. The whole thing contradicts that. Yeah, seriously. Unbiased, non-politicized, just like the Oscars. Just like them. Just like them. Canon 4. A justice may engage in extrajudicial activities that are consistent with the obligations of the judicial office. A justice may engage in extrajudicial activities. This means stuff that has nothing to do with their Supreme Court duties, including law-related pursuits and civic, charitable, educational, religious, social, financial, fiduciary, and government activities, and may speak, write, lecture, teach, on both law-related and non-legal subjects. You can give a cooking class if you want. That's totally, the world is your oyster. However, a justice should not participate in extrajudicial activities that detract from the dignity of the justice's office. So there you go. No OnlyFans for you, Justice Alito. Interfere with the performance of the justice's official duties, reflect adversely on the justice's impartiality, lead to frequent disqualification, or violate the limitations set forth below. law-related activities. Okay, fine. And finally, Canon 5. I want to focus here on number 3 because I see here they talk about gifts. Because this is one of the focuses of Justice Thomas, that he received gifts inappropriately. A justice should comply with the restrictions on acceptance of gifts and the prohibition of solicitation of gifts set forth in the Judicial Conference regulations on gifts now in effect. A justice should endeavor to prevent any member of the justice family residing in the household from soliciting or accepting a gift except to the extent that justice would be permitted to do so by the Judicial Conference gift regulations. So I don't know I'm not familiar with the regulations on gifts from the Judicial Conference regulations. A member of the justice family means any member of the justice by blood, adoption, or marriage, or any person treated by justice as a member of the justice family. All right. And finally, a justice should refrain from political activity. You should not act as a leader, hold any office, political organization, make speeches, solicit funds for any political organization. Should resign the judicial office if he or she becomes a candidate in a primary or general election for any office. Not engage in other political activity, but to the exclusion of what we said above. Anything about a wife not having to do with political activity? No. That's definitely expressly out of here. So Ginny Thomas can go do whatever the heck she wants to do. That's not considered by the Supreme Court to be any sort of violation of anything at all. You know, she was hanging out with, texting Mark Meadows about how they should try and get the election overturned, which purportedly she did. Had nothing to do with Justice Thomas, does not in any way reflect on him under these guidelines. Commentary, this is where I want to focus. On the last 4 pages of this thing. Because this is where we're really fixating on, okay, how are things different if you're a Supreme Court justice than if you're just, a circuit court judge, a district court judge, state court judge, or some other judge in our country. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mary. Good night. The Code of Conduct is substantially derived from the Code of Conduct for U.S. judges, but adapted to the unique institutional setting of the Supreme Court. In certain instances, the foregoing canons provide fairly specific guidance. A justice, for example, should not testify as a character witness. Canon 2B. A justice may serve as the executor only for the estate, trust, or person of a member of the justice family, but not like some friend decides, hey, I'm going to make this justice the executor of my estate, and the executor happens to get like $10 million for serving in that role. In many cases, however, these canons are broadly worded general principles informing conduct rather than specific rules requiring no exercise of judgment or discretion, meaning there's some latitude here for the justices. It is not always clear, for example, whether particular conduct undermines, promotes, or has no effect on public confidence, integrity, impartiality, the judiciary. What they're saying here is, we're supposed to make sure that we're not undermining the appearance of a lack of integrity. I can't tell. That's a very broad thing. What someone says that's now I can't trust the courts is very different from what everyone else might say. That's a very, very broad opinion. Or whether a justice has acted as a patient, dignified, respectful, and courteous manner in Canon 3A. This concern is heightened with respect to canons applicable to justice of the Supreme Court, given the often sharp disagreement concerning matters of great import that come before the Supreme Court. These canons must be understood in that light. This commentary does not adopt the extensive commentary from the lower court code, much of which is inapplicable. It instead is tailored to the Supreme Court's placement at the head of the branch of our tripartite governmental structure. Canon 3B addresses the inherently judicial function of recusal. Look at 3B. That's where we were focusing on that, the reasons that someone has to recuse themselves from a case. The justices follow the same general principles and statutory standards for recusal as other federal judges, including the evaluation of motions to recuse made by parties. But the application of these principles can differ due to the effect of the court's processes and the administration of justice in the event that one or more members must withdraw from a case. Lower courts can freely substitute one district or circuit judge for another. So they're making a fair point here.
if you bring a motion to have someone recuse himself because you believe that they have a personal problem with it, well, if it's in the district court or it's in the appellate court, they just sign someone else to cover for you. Well, you can't really do that in the Supreme Court. No one else can step in for a justice who recuses themselves. The Supreme Court consists of 9 members who sit together. The loss of one justice may undermine the fruitful interchange of minds which is indispensable to the court's decision-making process. Recusal can have a distorting effect upon the certiorari process, requiring the petitioner to obtain 4 votes out of 8 instead of 4 out of 9. When hearing a case on the merits, the loss of one justice is effectively the same as casting a vote against the petitioner. The petitioner needs 5 votes to overturn the judgment below, and it makes no difference whether the needed 5th vote is missing because it's been cast for the other side or because it has not been cast at all. Meaning, if you make someone recuse themselves, that's basically forcing them to vote no. Good point. And by the absence of one justice, risks the affirmance of a lower court decision by an evenly divided court, potentially preventing the court from providing a uniform national rule of a decision on an important issue. In short, much can be lost when even one justice does not participate in a particular case. These are all fair points that they're making here. This canon's recusal provisions thus different from those in lower court code in that they restate the justice's 1993 statement of recusal policy, recognize the duty to sit, and the time-honored rule of necessity may override the rule of disqualification. So look, sometimes you might think to yourself, what the hell is that justice doing sitting on this case? But please understand, we only got 9 of us here. So we're sort of kind of stuck. You can't really work around the problem and say, hey, you recuse yourself, you recuse yourself. That when we lose someone here, it immediately has an impact on the outcome of the case, whether or not that outcome is warranted. I mean, just because someone might be biased in a certain way doesn't mean that the person you would think him to be biased for is necessarily wrong. And when you force that person to be recused, it's pretty much a vote against that person, even though they might have any less reason to be vindicated in their claims. It's a good point. Canon 3B2D retains language from the lower court relating to known interests of third-degree relatives that might be substantially affected by the outcome of proceeding. Because of the broad scope of the cases that come before the Supreme Court and the nationwide impact of its decisions, this provision should be construed narrowly. For example, a justice who has a school-age nieces and nephews need not recuse in a case involving student loans, even though the disposition of that case could substantially affect the terms in which justice's relatives would finance their higher education. Which is logical. You know, when they're passing a law which is going to impact great swaths of the community, obviously it's going to have some impact on some relatives are there somewhere in some, you know, in the one member out of a class that could have millions of people in it. The canon's recusal provision depends on the justice's knowledge of a certain relationship of interests. The court receives approximately 5,000 to 6,000 petitions for writs of certiorari each year. Roughly 90% of this number may be and are denied at a preliminary stage without joint discussion among the justices. So there's roughly, out of those 5,000 to 6,000, like there's 5,000 which we never hear. As lacking as any reasonable prospect of certiorari review, the recusal issues may be considered in light of this reality. In view of the canon's knowledge requirement and the large volume of cases docketed, the justices rely on the disclosure statements required under the court rules in identifying interested parties that may present grounds for recusal. Individual justices around the court decide recusal issues. So everyone's got to decide for themselves. Everyone's got to decide for themselves. It's not for, we're not going to sit here weighing each other. We're not sitting here saying, hey, you have an interest, you have to recuse yourself. That, you're not going to see Kavanaugh saying that to KBJ or Sotomayor saying it to Gorsuch. In addition, in accordance with its historic practice, the court refers the motion to recuse in this case to Justice Scalia. Recusals are no other court's decisions, both at the certiorari and merit stages. In contrast to lower courts, where filing of amicus briefs is limited to Supreme Court, the Supreme Court receives up to 1,000 amicus filings each term. In some recent instances, more than 100 amicus briefs have been filed in a single case. The court has adopted a permissive approach to amicus filings, having recently modified its rules to dispense with the prior requirement that amici either obtain the consent of all parties or file motions seeking leave to submit an amicus brief. Yeah, it used to be that if you wanted to submit an amicus brief, you needed permission of all parties, or you had to bring a motion to the court saying, here's why my brief should be read, which is kind of a weird sort of thing that lawyers have to do, because you sort of have to spell out your interest and why your points are significant. Please read my points, which let me explain to you what my points are so you can understand why you should read my points. It's just a very sloggy type of way of doing justice. So they dispensed with that and they said, just file. You want to file, just file your stupid motion. You file your stupid brief. In light of the foregoing, in light of the court's permissive amicus practice, amici and their counsel will not be a basis for an individual justice to recuse, because anyone could just file something, and we're not going to say, oh, there's an amicus brief, so clearly the amicus brief was filed by a friend of Justice Gorsuch. Now he has to be recused. That's not the way it's going to work. We got a lot of amici brief that come in here. The plural of amicus is amici or amici, depending on who you hear saying it. The Court of Appeals follows a similar approach to ameliorate any risk that an amicus filing could precipitate a recusal. Because otherwise, if you have a friend who disagrees with you, think about this for a second. Let's say you're a hardcore righty and you're a judge and you have a good friend who's a hardcore lefty or a cousin, Mary Trump, and they want to, and you know, Mary Trump is your sister-in-law or has financial dealings with you, and the next thing you know, she files an amicus brief. You're like, now I have to recuse myself. Amicus brief is not going to knock you out. Federal Rule of Appellate Procedure 2982 states that a court of appeals may prohibit the filing of or may strike an amicus brief that would result in a judge's disqualification. So we're not going to use amicus brief to knock people out, because that would be kind of stupid. And it would be. I'm trying to see how much more we have left. Okay. Canon 4 reflects the principle that justices, like all judges, are encouraged to engage in extrajudicial activities as long as independence and impartiality are not compromised. We want our judges to be getting out there amongst the people. Mingle. Get out there with the people. We encourage that from our justices. That's probably a good thing for the court. Justices are uniquely qualified to engage in judicial activities that concern the law, the legal system, and the administration of justice, such as by speaking, writing, teaching, or participating in scholarly research projects. Many of the justices this is true of. Justices are also encouraged to engage in educational, religious, charitable, fraternal, civic activities not conducted for profit, blah, blah, blah. Participation in both law-related and other judicial activities helps integrate justices in their communities, furthers public understanding. It's a good thing. It's basically a good thing for them to not be cloistered away in their little offices. Did I see Alina Hava's FJB necklace at the UFC event? No, I missed that. I missed it. Now I want to. Trump attending the UFC, by the way, in case you missed it.
How strong that team is, making his way into the building.
Tucker's so excited. He's so excited. He's so excited.
The bigger mixed martial arts fans, I know President Donald Trump taking his octagon side seat for UFC 295. We got 2 title fights coming up at UFC 295 here in a matter of moments, live from Madison Square Garden. And President Trump will be here to witness all of it. 4 of the very best fighters in the world set to take their cracks at light heavyweight and interim heavyweight gold, respectively. We move over to pay-per-view shortly. Thank you all for being here for the prelim coverage. But as you know, best is yet to come. Main card for UFC 295, live on ESPN Plus pay-per-view from...
Yeah. They seem really popular out there.
Madison Square Garden starts right now.
This is in New York. This is in New York. This is why they didn't want to have a jury. Because he's not as hated by New Yorkers as everyone likes to see. He's hated by the Ivy Tower, the Ivy Tower folks in New York. Folks in New York don't hate him nearly as much as they make it out. Not nearly as much. Yeah, the youngins don't like him because they've been trained by their college professors to be like, oh, he's so evil. But your average blue collar New Yorker kind of likes Donald Trump a lot. So when we do further investigation, we will learn that he actually won New York too. I don't know. There's a little integrity. Who knows? It's very possible. Very possible. He might have won New York. You can't prove otherwise. You don't know. You don't know. Maybe he did win New York. Maybe he did. Got a better shot in New York than the other Republican. All right. But I didn't see Alina Hobbit. Was I supposed to see Alina Hobbit there? Alina Hobbit. Oh, this thing here is supposed to be FJB. That's pretty funny. That's very funny. Well, there you go. All right. Who was I? Canon 4G clarifies that justice should not, to any substantial degree, use judicial chambers, resources, or staff to engage in activities that do not materially support office functions. So, yeah, we want you to get out there to the people. Don't start using your office to, like, arrange your golf meetings. This provision recognizes distinctive security concerns the justice faces, high-profile public figures, and allows justices to accept comprehensive security protection. It also allows court officials and chamber staff to perform their official duties in enhancing security and providing legal ethics. Other associated. So stop making your stinking. We don't want to hear about your your bridge parties here or any other parties you're having. In light of the high public interest of justice activities and the acute security concerns that are distinct from such concerns for lower court judges. And consistent with historic practice, chambers personnel, including law clerks, may assist judges with speeches, law review articles, and other activities described in Canon 4. They're really not supposed to be getting your laundry or pressing your shirts for you. Canon 4D3 and 4H articulate the practice formalized in 1991 of individual justices following the financial disclosure requirements and limitations on gifts outside earned income, outside employment, and honoraria. Now we're trying to cover what happened, the whole Justice Thomas thing. Justices file the same annual financial disclosure reports as other federal judges. Those reports disclose, among other things, justices' non-governmental income, investments, gifts, reimbursements from third parties. For purposes of sound judicial administration, the justices file these reports through the Judicial Conference Committee on Financial Disclosure. In regard to the financial disclosure requirements relating to teaching and outside income, a justice may not accept compensation for an appearance or a speech, but may be paid for teaching a course of study at an accredited educational institution or participating in an educational program of any duration that is sponsored by such an institution as part of the educational offering. Associate justices may receive prior approval from the Chief Justice to compensation for teaching, because we don't pay them much. The Chief Justice must receive prior approval from the courts. Justices may not have outside earned income, including income from teaching, in excess of an annual cap established by state and statute regulation. We don't want someone going to work for some school and all of a sudden Harvard is going to start paying them like $9 million a year for them to be teaching a course. Compensation for writing a book is not subject to a cap, so if anyone wants to bribe you by helping you write your biography, that's open game. Like lower court judges, I'm just reading between the lines here. I'm helping you read between the lines. That's what I'm not trying to read to you because I think you're incapable of reading. The commentary is designed to help you read between the lines. Like lower court judges, justices engage in extrajudicial activities other than teaching, including speaking, writing, and lecturing on both law-related and non-legal subjects. In fact, the lower court canons encourage public engagement by judicial officers so that everyone thinks that we're not a bunch of squares and that we actually have a life outside of what we do for a living, to avoid isolation from society in which they live and contribute to the public's understanding of the law. In deciding whether to speak for any group, please don't speak before the KKK, a justice should consider whether doing so would create an appearance of impropriety in the minds of reasonable members of the public. So please don't speak before BLM. In addition to this code of conduct, the justices also comply with Constitution. That's a good start. Current laws relating to judicial ethics, including but not limited to 28 U.S.C. 455, Ethics and Government Act, Foreign Gifts and Decorations Act, and current judicial conference regulations on gifts, foreign gifts, and decorations. All right. So when it comes to gifts, they make reference to other codes, which I haven't really dug up. I'm not about to dig them up right now. I'll dig it up if and when a claim is officially levied against any of these justices, because it's too broad to look through otherwise. The justices may also take guidance from their colleagues. You're allowed to ask your friends. Judicial decisions, Supreme Court Office of Legal Counsel, judicial conference committees or codes of conduct and financial disclosure, lower court judges, executive and legislative branch practice and guidance. You can ask your priest, you can ask your rabbi, you can ask your chauffeur. State judicial ethics authorities and from scholars, scholar treatises and articles. It's good that they spell all this out, otherwise they would feel like they're not allowed to talk to them about it. The justices also continue to look to the court's own past resolutions and opinions for guidance. Court provides mandatory training on judicial ethics principles to all court employees. In urging the judiciary to promulgate and adopt what became the lower court code, Justice Thomas E. Clark observed shortly after his retirement from the Supreme Court that judges must bear the primary responsibility for requiring appropriate judicial behavior. Hearings and non-judicial activities of Supreme Court justices and other federal judges before the Subcommittee on Separation of Powers and the Senate Committee to the Judiciary's 91st Congress in 1969. Same is true for justices. To assist the justices in complying with these canons, the Chief Justice has directed court officers to undertake an examination of best practices, drawing in part from the experience of other federal and state courts. For example, some district courts and courts of appeals have deployed software to run automated recusal checks on new case filings. So we start looking into like, hey, is there a connection here between this lawyer and like one of the justices? The court will assess whether it needs additional resources in its clerk's office to perform initial and ongoing review or recuse on other ethics issues. The court will also consider whether amendments to its rules on discourse obligations of parties and counsel may be advisable. In regards to financial disclosure, justice will continue to seek guidance from the Office of Legal Counsel. So what this is basically saying, in case you're wondering, reading between the lines here, just giving a synopsis, is when it comes to these gifts, yeah, there's certain guidelines that we should really, and the people we should talk to, and we do. And that's what we do. And so we have our guidelines already, and this is what we're going to do. And look, I don't like the idea of these justices getting tons of gifts. I think that I don't care who the justice is. I don't care if it's Thomas or KBJ or Sotomayor. I don't care. I love Justice Thomas. I think he's probably one of the top 3 Supreme Court justices in American history. I think he's phenomenal. He's brilliant, and he's sharp. He's incisive, and he has a sharp pen. I think he has a brilliant mind. That doesn't mean that if I still don't want him getting like tons of gifts from wealthy people. It's disconcerting.
And I'm not trying to intimate that he's done anything appropriate. I don't believe he's done anything inappropriate. I think there's been a lot of smoke and mirrors which have been thrown at him in order to try and portray him in a negative way because he's so strongly conservative leaning. But that doesn't mean that I think he should be beyond review. Nor should any justice be beyond review. Now, I wouldn't want to see that review be political, the way we've seen it be with these impeachments of Trump, for example. I would be very bothered by that. I think that's not enhanced our country. It's just made it a worse place to live. And I'm not sure how you establish an independent review. It seems like a difficult thing to figure out how to wrap your head around. I don't know if there is an answer to it. The Office of Legal Counsel will maintain specific guidance tailoring recurring ethics and financial disclosures issues and will continue to provide annual training on these issues to justices, chamber staff, and other court personnel. That is the end of the story right there. So there you go. There you go. Those are the official rules of the court. Those are the rules of the courts. Make sure I miss anything here. That'd be good. God, that'd be bad if I miss something there. I have one more topic before I wrap up this sucker. One more topic. And a reminder that I am going to be streaming to locals tomorrow. I'll be live streaming the rally when I get there. Although I should get there a little late. I think I'm probably not going to end up getting there. Like my train is getting in like at 12:49. And it starts at 1. So I'm not going to be there on time. But I think it's something like that. I'll probably end up getting there like a half hour late. That's my anticipation. This is what I wanted to cover last. Elise Stefanik. So she wrote a letter filing an official judicial complaint against Judge Arthur Engoron. Sent that out last week. That's not how we want to do this. That's much better. Yes, it will be fashionably late. I'll be fashionably late to this rally in Washington, D.C. Okay. So Elise says, I just filed an official judicial complaint against Judge Arthur Engoron for his inappropriate bias and judicial intemperance in New York's disgraceful lawsuit against President Donald Trump and the Trump Organization. Americans are sick and tired of blatant corruption by radical leftist judges in New York. All New Yorkers must speak out against the dangerous weaponized lawfare against President Trump. She is from New York. So she's a representative. I'm not sure which district in New York. Dear Commission members, I write today to express my serious concerns about the inappropriate bias and judicial intemperance shown by Judge Arthur Engoron in New York's lawsuit against President Donald J. Trump and the Trump Organization. Judge's bizarre behavior, which he is kind of weird. He's weird. Has no place in our judicial system where Judge Engoron is not honoring the defendant's rights to due process and a fair trial. These serious concerns are exacerbated by the fact that the defendant is the leading candidate for president of the United States, and it appears the judicial system is being politicized to affect the outcomes of the campaign. Simply put, Judge Engoron has displayed a clear judicial bias against the defendant throughout the case, breaking several rules of the New York Code of Judicial Conduct. Last year, Engoron told President Trump's attorney that the former president is just a bad guy who Democrat New York Attorney General Letitia James should go after as the chief law enforcement officer of the state. That's pretty sick. Is that really true? Checking her little... It's in February 2022. Wow.
That's pretty unsettling. At the start of the trial, Judge Engelron infamously smiled and posed for cameras. After the defendant wanted an appellate ruling against Judge Engelron on the appropriate statute of limitations in this case, the judge simply ignored the ruling. Judge Engelron entered summary judgment against the defendant before the trial even began, without witnesses, other evidence, and cross-examination. This despite the fact there's disputed material evidence and there's no victim in the defendant's supposed fraud. Indeed, as the trial evidence has made clear, the defendant paid back to the sophisticated Wall Street banks on time, in full, with interest, as agreed. No insurance company paid a penny. And these banks and insurance companies, supposedly defrauded, continued to do business with the defendant. Yet Judge Engelron decreed before the trial the defendant somehow committed fraud. Now the judge is holding a trial with no jury to determine how much of the Tish James requested $250 million in damages with no victims. He will extract from the defendant. How does this not violate the defendant's Seventh Amendment right to jury trial? That's a weak question, Stefanik. That's a poor question. It's not a great question. Because certain proceedings, I never have a jury trial. And Judge Engelron has made it crystal clear he does not care what the defendant's attorneys had to say. Indeed, Judge Engelron legally gagged them. Judge Engelron told the defendant, "We are not here to listen to what you have to say." He told defense counsel, "I'm not here to hear what he has to say. Now sit down." And Judge Engelron even threatened defense counsel, "If you file a routine motion for a direct verdict, you better not, Chris." Hey, I was there for that. Judge Engelron and his staff are partisan Democrat donors. As recently as 2018, Judge Engelron donated to the Manhattan Democrats, even though Section 100.5 says the judges shall refrain from making a contribution to political organization. Really? Let's check out number 5. Wow. That's weird. I like how she brings receipts. That's a good thing. That's a really good thing. Section 100.5 also states that the judge shall prohibit members of the judge's staff from contributing more than $500 in the aggregate during any calendar year to all political campaigns for political office. Allison Greenfield has served as Judge Engelron's principal law clerk since 2019. In both 2022 and 2023, Greenfield donated in excess of $500 to political campaigns. In 2022 alone, Greenfield donated $3,335 in political donations to Democrat candidates and causes. She's already given more than $1,000 in 2023 to campaigns. When President Trump's attorneys notified Judge Engelron responded by issuing an illegal gag order against President Trump's legal team. Engelron has gone on to gag and fine President Trump for merely criticizing Engelron's law clerk, which is a core political speech protected by the First Amendment. If anyone in America must have the constitutional right to speak out against Judge, his staff, the witnessing process, is the defendant going through a process he believes is politicized and weaponized against him. That I agree with. To gag a defendant is un-American. It's an illegal prior restraint on the defendant's First Amendment rights, which even the progressive ACLU felt compelled to acknowledge after another Democrat judge, D.C. Obama, U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan, illegally gagged President Trump. Indeed, 3 Democrat-appointed judges in the D.C. court have since stayed Judge Chutkan's illegal gag order. They keep trying to gag him. It's wrong. It's really, really messed up. It's really messed up. It's proof that there is no God. It's not. Sorry, Megan Rapinoe. It's not. No matter how messed up you think it is. Judge Engelron put his judgment in serious doubt by issuing a summary judgment. Citing as evidence of fraud that the Trump organization said Mar-a-Lago is worth between $426 and $612 million. The Associated Press report that the 2 top Palm Beach area resort agents said that the club's sale of $1 billion or more would be possible. In fact, Judge Engoron ridiculously found that Mar-a-Lago was worth only somewhere between $18 and $27 million. Any Zillow search shows that nearly 20 acres of prime real estate in Palm Beach, touching both the Atlantic Ocean and the Intercoastal Waterway, is worth exponentially more than 18 to 27 million. And Judge Engoron had in his hand the sworn deposition of Palm Beach real estate agent Lawrence Mowens, who said the Trump Organization's valuations were reasonable and below my estimate for the market value of the property each year. Mowens was asked in a sworn deposition about what sort of buyers would purchase Mar-a-Lago, and Mowens responded, "I could dream up anyone from Elon Musk to Bill Gates and everyone in between. Kings, emperors, heads of state, but worth net worths of multiple billions," the judge wrote. Obviously, this court cannot consider an expert affidavit that is based on an unexplained, unsubstantiated dream. Judge Engoron apparently doesn't understand that experts' opinions aren't dreams. And this is yet another example why Judge Engoron demonstrated bad judgment by keeping this case instead of sending it to expert judges in the commercial division where it belongs. She's doing a very nice job here of laying everything out. I don't agree with every argument she's made, but she's doing a very nice job of laying this out. Engoron's bizarre and biased behavior is making New York's judicial system a laughingstock. Former Southern District of New York federal prosecutor Andrew McCarthy, who has at times criticized President Trump, recently stated that he views the whole New York justice system as fraudulent. That's a former Southern District of New York prosecutor. That's significant. Section 100.2a states, quote, "A judge shall respect and comply with the law and shall act at all times in a manner that promotes public confidence and integrity and impartiality of the judiciary." Engoron has grossly failed to do this. The commission's sanctions against Judge Engoron are necessary to bring back credibility to our great state's legal system. All Americans, including political opponents, must receive due process, equal protection on the U.S. and New York Constitution. Engoron's disdain for Trump and his politics are evident, and the commission must take corrective action to restore a just process and protect our constitutional rights. Judge Engoron must recuse from this case. This case is so much bigger than President Donald J. Trump. If Judge Engoron can railroad a billionaire New York businessman, a former president of the United States, and a leading presidential candidate, just imagine what he could do to New Yorkers, all New Yorkers. Judge Engoron's lawlessness sends an ominous and illegal warning to New York business owners. If a New York judge doesn't like your politics, they will destroy your business, the livelihood of your employees, and you personally. This commission cannot let this continue. Thank you for your prompt consideration of the judicial complaint against Judge Arthur F. Engoron for his inappropriate bias and judicial intemperance in New York versus Trump. Sincerely, Stefanik, and here are all her footnotes. I think it's a well-written letter, and I'm very confident that they will file in their special filing cabinet that has like that when they put documents in that cabinet, you hear this noise that goes Yep, there you go. That's what's going to happen to that letter. That's what's going to happen there. That's my thoughts. Wow, Don Jr. did well. 32% in my poll. Don got 68%. I thought he would win that poll. But he did well. 32%. That's not too bad. He does speak well. He speaks really well. Yeah. All right. I need to wake up early, as you are well aware. So what I'm going to do, my friends, is I'm going to send you on your way. I'm going to find my friend Rakeda here, who better be here, otherwise I'm going to be mad. Okay. This guy here. Oh, yeah, he's coming to ethics rules. Good for him. Good for him. Good for you, Nikki. Good for you, Nikki. All right. I'm landing my plane here. Tomorrow on Locals, streaming live from the rally. It should be wild. Am I going to speak at the rally? Hell no. But I will be there, God willing. And so will you. Goodlogic.locals.com. It's goodlogic.locals.com. I'm going to bust my tail to get back here in time to run a stream tomorrow when I get back. Till then, take care of yourselves. Oh, also Wednesday, Colorado versus Trump. Let's go Trump. Let's go Trump. See you all then. Take care, my friends. Be happy, eat some bugs, and Godspeed.